I was pregnant with a human baby and I did not know it. What?
If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what
YouTube, welcome back to my channel, Beans and Monkeys. Thank you guys for stopping by and checking in on what I have to offer for you guys today. So, by the title of this video, you probably have a good idea of what I'm going to talk about. But this is the extraordinary, fantastic, fabulous birth story of my 8-year-old daughter, who I didn't know I was pregnant with until 3 hours before she was born. Be gentle, please. I've watched the same TV episodes that you all have watched on TLC of, I didn't know I was pregnant, and oh my God, my stomach hurts, and then oh my God, I'm having a baby, and baby's in the toilet. Like, I've watched all those like horrible acting, over dramatic episodes too. This is my real life. Like, this isn't one of those episodes. Please, 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 please be gentle, please. So here's her story. My then boyfriend, now husband, his name is Brian. I'm sure you'll get to see him in a video soon. He and I were pretty good friends for a couple of years when we met in college. We both went to the same university. And then around like our sophomore year or so, we decided that we were interested in each other in more than like a friendly way. January of 2007, we started dating. He was so cute. He even like picked me up and like took me in a restaurant, and he is not the kind of guy to like dress up and do all of that, but he had one button-up shirt and he buttoned up his shirt. Oh my gosh, it was the cutest. It was so sweet. We started dating, and our plan was to wait about 6 months before we decided to become intimate, right? Or have sex. We wanted to wait. But that didn't really go as planned. We only waited about a month. And then, you know, it was just, you know, we're in college, we're young, we're feeling each other. Y'all know how it goes. You know how it goes. We're living life, loving each other, doing the stuff. We're both in college. I was working as a lifeguard and a swim instructor. I was in a swimsuit like every day. I had what appeared to be a irregular cycle, which in like looking back now should have been a big sign for me because my period's never irregular. But I was like, okay, I'm having bleeding. Maybe it's just I'm stressed or busy or whatever. So I brush it off, right? I'm like, irregular period cycle, fine, still getting the bleeding, I can't be pregnant. Wrong. I traveled to London and I lived there from July until August that year, which puts me at about like, I don't know, well into my second trimester, maybe even into my third trimester. I didn't look pregnant at all. I lost 20 pounds. 20 pounds. And now I know that this is like a thing. I know women who only gain like 6 pounds and have like a big, huge belly, but losing 20 pounds? Crazy. I looked better when I was pregnant with my daughter than I look now. Like as far as like my physical fitness level and my body shape. So I'm doing all the things, I'm traveling, I'm losing this weight. I'm like, sweet, this is awesome. I don't really have any symptoms that would point me to being pregnant. There are 2 occasions that now, like looking back, I should have been like, well, that's weird, but I didn't. So hindsight's 20/20, right? When I was probably early pregnant with her, I had like a day where I was throwing up and I was like, oh my God, this is the stomach flu. It's the worst ever. Worst thing ever. And now I know that was probably morning sickness. That's like the same pattern that I had with Harrison. I had like a day where I was horribly sick and then nothing else. And then I had this time when I was in London. It's super embarrassing. I can't believe I'm telling you guys this story. I was in London and I was far away from all of my family and I was stressed and I was tired and we had had a long day and I was pregnant and didn't know it. And I go to do my laundry at this terrible, terrible laundromat. it was horrible. It like ate my money, ate like $7 of my money, which was doubled anyways because we were living in the UK and the exchange rate was awful at the time. And I go to get my laundry back and it's like wet and it smells horrible. I just throw it in the basket and I go back to my room and I get on the phone, and a very expensive international call, by the way, to my boyfriend at the time, who was, again, now my husband. And I'm like, oh my God, my laundry is still wet. Da, da, da. I'm doing the ugly cry, doing everything. And he's like, whoa, buddy. Like, it's just laundry. Like, relax, would you please? Those are the two things that, looking back, I probably could have known that I was pregnant. Fast forward to September of 2007. I am now back at college and I'm moving into my off-campus apartment. Woo, first year of off-campus apartment, awesome. I was living with two other gals who unfortunately I'm no longer friends with. It's super unfortunate, but I'll add that story in at the end of this. Moving into the apartment with the girls, I got this like super heavy dresser and my mom was down there to help me. And she's like, let's put this dresser upstairs. It was a townhouse situation. And so my room was on the upstairs level and we had to get it up there. And I'm like, I can't push this dresser. It weighs 1,000,000 pounds. And my mom is like, push the dresser. Like, stop being a whiner. Just push the dresser. And I really couldn't. Like, clearly I was like 6, 7, 8.5 months pregnant, who even knows? But really I was pregnant pretty like well into my second or third trimester, even probably into my third trimester at that point. And we're trying to move this dresser and I just couldn't do it. So she flagged down some guys from outside. They moved the dresser, it gets all done, but she was like screaming at me. Fast forward a month later, my dad comes down for a homecoming game and I'm having like the weirdest period ever. It's like bloody and goopy, and sorry for the TMI, but now, duh, like I should have called somebody, duh, that was my mucus plug leaving my body. So then we're gonna fast forward some more because there's not really super important details up till here. It's like November 16th, I think, maybe even the morning of the 17th. The dates get kind of fuzzy because it's been 8 years now. I'm like having this abdominal pain from hell. Like, I have no idea what's going on with my body, like what's going on. Side note, I didn't have a car at the time, and I also didn't have a driver's license because I went to college in like a small little podunk town, and let's be honest, I was a little bit nervous about driving and like that whole concept. So I was like, you know, I don't need it. Didn't have a car, nothing. Brian was spending the night that night and he had to go into work really early. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like up all night. I, you know, just couldn't sleep well. I wasn't feeling well. It was bad. And he's like, do you need me to stay with you or like take you somewhere? And I'm like, no, dude, no, I'm fine. You just go to work. I send him on and like 30 minutes later, I'm like, no, this is not right. Something is wrong. At that time, because I didn't know what was going on, I had been having my period. I didn't look pregnant. I'll attach some photos here. See, I'm telling you, I didn't even look pregnant. Like, what? Having my period, didn't look pregnant, didn't feel pregnant, all of this stuff, traveling, busy, doing all this stuff. And I'm like, what, you know, appendix, it's gotta be my appendix. So he comes back from driving to work, calls into work, and takes me to this hospital in Dallas, Oregon. Woo, tiny little Dallas, Oregon. If any of you are from Oregon and you know Dallas, Oregon, you know that this is a tiny little hospital. So we go there and they're like, pain meds, like heavy pain meds. They're giving me like Dilaudid and like crazy stuff, like morphine, stuff that typically pregnant women don't get in that high of doses. So they're giving me this stuff to help me manage my pain, and they're like, well, the pain you're describing is kind of weird, so we're gonna give you a pregnancy test. So they give me the pregnancy test. It was just a pee test, it wasn't like a blood test or anything. So they give me the pregnancy test and it comes back positive. Duh, of course it's gonna come back positive. And they're like, well, you're experiencing all this stuff, maybe you're having like a tubal pregnancy, since you didn't have any idea and you had no reason to believe you were pregnant. Maybe because of the amount of pain you're in, you're having a tubal. But remember, we're in Dallas, Oregon, this tiny little town. Tiny little town. They're like, well, we don't have an ultrasound machine, so we can't confirm your pregnancy. So now we're gonna send you by ambulance to Salem Hospital. So if you're not familiar with Oregon, Salem is the capital. It's a little bit bigger. So yeah, send me to Salem Hospital. We get there and I get to having an ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech is just a jerk, like seriously a jerk. Brian and I are like freaking out, and this guy, I mean, now I know that he legally can't give me any information, but he could have just said that instead of being a jerk. And he's like so mean, not answering any of our questions, just like super short with us, like couldn't even. And he starts saying things like, well, you're definitely pregnant. And he's like, it looks like you're about 20 weeks along. And in my like naive 20-year-old mind, I'm like, what does that mean? Like, is the baby alive? Is the baby dead? And the guy's like, I can't tell you anything. Da, 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 da. So we wait there. And if you've had an ultrasound, you know how dang long it takes for the doctors to come in. So the doctor comes in and he's like, yeah, it looks like you're like 32 to 33 weeks pregnant and you're in labor, you're having contractions, and you're gonna have a baby within the next couple hours. Excuse me? I'm having a what? In the next couple of what? Holy moly. So Brian is sitting there this whole time and he's like white as a ghost. He's like terrified. He's like, what in the actual F? Like, what is going on? And I'm just like, okay, like just kind of going with it. We lay there and go there and we start talking. Through this entire process, I am like terrified to tell my family. And this is my biggest regret of the entire thing. Like, I called my roommates, who ended up being like the least supportive people that I could have had there. I call my roommates and they show up and they're like, what's going on? We fill them in, tell them the whole story, what's going on. So they're there. Then we called some of Brian's siblings next, and they showed up to support him. But a little backstory, I was always kind of like this golden child. Like, I didn't really make any big mistakes when I was a kid. I never really got in trouble. I never wanted to disappoint my parents. And so coming from that place and being in this situation, I was terrified to call my family. I was like, I don't want to tell them that I messed up. How am I going to tell them this? And so I went through this entire process without having my mom there. And like, I'm kind of teary just thinking about it because I wish that she would have been the person that I called. But I didn't. And so I go through this whole thing. I get an epidural and I end up delivering my baby girl via forceps delivery because she was flipped around, like her leg and her head were kind of coming out together. And so full episiotomy and flipped around, and they grabbed her out and pulled her with forceps. And then she was born on November 17th. She weighed 4 pounds, 6 ounces, and she spent 10 days in the NICU, which was really awesome. She never had to have a ventilator. She was always breathing on her own. The things that she had to do before she could leave the hospital were to learn how to suck. So babies, when they're that small, they don't have a sucking reflex. And so she had to learn how to feed. So at first she had like a tube that went up her nose and down her throat to feed her. She never had a stomach tube or anything like that, which was amazing. She was a great burper. I remember the NICU nurses telling us that she burped like a grown man. Like, she was great at that. I wasn't able to breastfeed her, but I did pump exclusively for her for 6 weeks. And yeah, so when she was like a day and a half old, I finally like grew enough balls to call my mom. I called her, and then she called her mom, and they came down and they met Delilah and called the rest of my family and fell in love with her. I mean, look at this kid. How could you not fall in love with her? She was phenomenal from the minute I met her. And I never had any question about whether or not I was going to have her in my life. From the minute I met her, from the minute I knew she existed, she was my girl. And I'm getting a little emotional talking about it. And I wish that I would have known that I was expecting her. Like, a lot of you moms know what mom guilt is all about, right? And I carry a lot of guilt about not knowing that she was there and thinking that I could have done things better for her and maybe given her a better start in life. So now that I'm all emotional, she was amazing, and she got to come home with us the day after Thanksgiving. We had Thanksgiving that year on paper plates in the NICU. And yeah, she was just phenomenal. We stayed home with her through Thanksgiving break, and then my roommates, who I talked about being very unsupportive, this is gonna make me emotional all over again, basically told me that because I had had a baby now, that they were either going to move out of a place that I could not afford. It was a 4-bedroom townhouse, and I'm a college student. We were splitting the rent like 4 ways. Or that I needed to find another place, or I needed to do something, but they were not gonna live with me there with a baby. These are people who I had considered my closest friends for the last 4 years of my life. People that I shared secrets with, people who saw me through some very dark times in my life, through some very great times, and they basically kicked us to the curb. Brian's roommates and friends said the same thing to him. And some of his roommates he had been friends with since middle school. I just don't understand that mentality. I don't at all. And I still hold a lot of resentment about that. And I don't think that those people will ever understand that resentment and that disdain that I honestly feel for them until they're parents themselves. So we were in the last semester of college, and it was suggested to me by my roommate's mother that I needed to drop out of college and become a mother now. I didn't. My family supported us and helped us care for Delilah, and were amazing. Like, we could not have done it without them. But we both graduated college in 2008. And I took a year off of school and then went back for my Master's of Arts in Teaching. So I did all of those things because Delilah showed me what it was to be strong. She taught me how to be a mom. She taught me so many lessons, and she continues to in her 8th year. I love her sass and her independent attitude and just everything about her. And I can't wait for you guys to meet her. I can't wait to do a video with her. So that is Delilah's birth story and my story of how I did not know that I was pregnant. So again, please be gentle, be kind in the comments. Thank you guys for stopping by Beans and Monkeys. Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you like this, and subscribe if you want more content like this. And by the way, have fun today.